Hi everybody, welcome back to Planet Arizona Comics, where the temperature's hot and the comics are hotter. This is my first video from home in about a month. The last video I did, I think, was that comic book haul from the ghost town in New Jersey while on vacation. And while I'm back from vacation, I have the weekend off. I have some time to make some videos. But when I got back from vacation, turns out my backyard transformed into the Amazon with all the rain and the monsoon humidity we've had. Grass literally a foot high, weeds, so I've been busy getting that in order. Speaking of getting things in order, I've been thinking about doing this video for a couple months now, getting books together. These are the top 10 newsstand editions in my collection, and while I am not the biggest connoisseur of newsstand versus direct edition, I think a key issue is a key issue, whether it came from a newsstand or it came from a comic book shop. I know that there are people out there that do subscribe to that. So I got some books together that'll be the top 10 newsstand editions in my collection. These are not monetary value or anything like that. These are just kind of like my favorites, what I have. Growing up in the 80s, a lot of what I had came from the newsstand. So, and also, I don't think every newsstand is kind of what it's cracked up to be. Because, like, just for example, if I post a picture of this Savage She-Hulk #1 from 1980 in a Facebook group, inevitably someone's going to point out, newsstand! Well, not every newsstand, like I said, is what it's cracked up to be. If you watch Tim Vo and Lords of the Long Box, every couple episodes they break out this kind of an estimated percentage breakdown by year of the disparity between newsstand editions and the direct market. 1986 being the halfway point, about 50-50 split. You go forward, it decreases till when there's nothing on the newsstand anymore, to going backwards in time to the early 80s and the late 70s when most everything came out on a newsstand. So while having a newsstand copy of Savage She-Hulk 1 is nice, not that rare, since pretty much everything back in 1980 did come out to a newsstand. So, without further ado, let's get into the top 10 newsstand editions in my collection. And we're going to start with number 12, because I can never nail these things down to just 10. This is a pretty cool copy of Wolverine #1 from 1988. It's signed by Chris Claremont. And the reason why it's number 12 instead of in the top 10 is because, one, it's a CBCS copy. Also, the grade being 9.2. Not particularly high grade, but still being that I was the person who bought this directly from the rack and got it signed, got it graded. Still came back 9.2. I'm going to make out pretty well if and when I ever sell that. Number 11. Still good, yeah. Number 11, West Coast Avengers, number 45 from 1989. This is the first appearance of White Vision. And going forward, I like this book a lot more than I did before the last issue of WandaVision was released, because I thought for sure White Vision was a goner. I thought maybe Scarlet Witch's vision from that series would destroy him, or they would destroy each other. But being that he just flew away and he's still out there, gives me hope that they're going to bring him back in some capacity. And this newsstand edition has been selling for a greater premium than the direct. Going back to the estimated breakdown, you're going back to somewhere above 15% for that time frame. So I like that book going forward. Getting into top 10. Okay, some of you might laugh, but hear me out. Namor #1 from 1990. I liken this book a lot to John Byrne's Sensational She-Hulk from 1988. That was dollar bin fodder for the longest time. You could find that pretty cheap for a long time. As soon as She-Hulk is announced that she's going to be coming into the MCU with the Disney Plus show. You started seeing that issue rise in value and in desirability, where that is now a $25 to $30 book. And surprisingly, go on eBay. If you look up Sensational She-Hulk 1, you will find like every single copy. Well, I'm embellishing a little bit, but almost every single copy is a newsstand. I don't know what that was. But you fast forward to the probability that Namor is going to be in the MCU, possibly the villain in the next Black Panther movie. I think that Savage She-Hulk desirability is going to transfer to this series by John Byrne, like I said, from 1990. Right now, this is running much cheaper than Sensational She-Hulk. This is in the range of $8 to $12. Higher grade copies can run you a little bit more. And the newsstand is starting to tick up in desirability. Like I said, 8 to 12 for direct market. This could run between 15 and 20, and I think this is just the floor what this could be when and if he is announced for the MCU. Number 9 on the list. Some Todd McFarlane classic, iconic goodness. Incredible Hulk number 340 from 1988. This is that great Wolverine Hulk battle done by the great Todd McFarlane. I mean, what needs to be said about this? It's not the highest grade, which is why it's lower on this list than it could be. Some backstory here. When I first got back into the hobby around 2011, 2012, I went to a local shop in Tempe, and I submitted what I thought were like my big guns in to get graded by CGC, and this is one of those 5. I had New Mutants 98, I had ASM 300, I had this, I had a couple more, I can't remember exactly which ones, but this is a good candidate for a crack and press, because I never pressed this, and it still came back an 85 and 8.5, and when I was 16 years old, I read the hell out of this issue. So, and looking at it, it looks like it might have some pressable defects, but you never know. Could be a good sign crack. Could be a good crack, sign, and press and grade. So, you never know when McFarlane's going to do another signing. Where are we now? Number 8. This is, I think, the oldest book on this list. This is Uncanny X-Men 221 from 1987. This is the first appearance of Mr. Sinister. And while I am not the biggest villain spec, I think just all books X-Men are hot. Right now we're in kind of a summer slowdown. The values of most key issues are starting to drop down from the previous highs in the spring and the winter. But I think once X-Men are announced to be coming to the MCU, I think all those X books are just going to shoot up in value, and I think this is one of those, and that's why this is number 8 on the list. Number 7 on the list. Darkhawk number 1. I have a Darkhawk number 1. I'm rich! Anyway, this is Darkhawk number 1 from 1990, I believe, 1991. And I like these books from the 90s, especially the newsstand. Again, going by that Lords of the Long Box breakdown, you see this is somewhere around 15 to 10% of the print run, or whatever you might call it, the distribution. Darkhawk has always been this kind of cult character. He's been kind of a jokey character for a little bit, but there's really a good, solid following of Darkhawk fans in the collecting community. And so I like this book going forward. You know, who knows if and when they bring him into the MCU. This book definitely has a lot of legs to grow, I think. Number 6 on the list. This is Ghost Rider number 1. 1990. This was my Ghost Rider growing up. I was 18 when this came out. Really struck by the border cover, that kind of classic early to mid 70s throwback cover by Javier Saltares. In fact, going forward, it seems like almost every Ghost Rider is speculated to come into the MCU in some fashion, and I do think every single iteration, even the new Kashala Ghost Rider Spirit of Vengeance, is going to make an appearance in some form. So I like this book going forward. In fact, I liked this cover so much when it came out, I got myself another copy. So I had 2 newsstands. And because it was so cheap for $2, I got myself a third. I got 3 newsstands, and these are all nice high-grade copies. I don't know if they'd come back a 9/8. You got a lot of black border, but there's a good chance. So that's why this is number 6 on the list. Number 5, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles Adventures number 1 from 1987, 1988. Growing up in Nutley, New Jersey in the mid-80s, we did not have a comic shop until like 88 or 89. So most of my collection is newsstand because we just had no shop to get our books from. So everything has a barcode from like 88, 87 down. I can kind of call this a Batman Adventures 12 light. It's not a big, huge first appearance like Harley Quinn, but you do have 3 first appearances in here from Krang. These are also the first colored turtles. Before that, they were all either, I guess, just black and white, and you can only tell who they were by the weapons they were using. It's also the first appearance of Bebop and Rocksteady in their human form. Their anthropomorphic form that we all know came in issue 2. Also, that copy is a newsstand for me. But not a lot of copies of newsstand, more so maybe than some of the other ones on this list because there was just more issues of this printed back then. But high-grade copies like this one, you're not going to find too many of. So that's why this is number 5 on the list. Number 4, I believe this is the most recent newsstand in my collection. This is Batman and Robin Adventures number 21. This is a modern classic Batgirl cover by Ty Templeton. Really, really like this book. I didn't even realize it was a newsstand until I got it. I was looking through that. I'm going, there's not a direct edition. This is a newsstand. Oh my God. So the seller, these, let's get back to that list where I put you. Oh, there you are. So this is from 1995, I believe. So you go to the breakdown from 1995. This is 10% or less of the print run. Not a whole lot of these were printed. So you shrink that number down by 1/10. Not a lot out there. Very few on eBay. Very few high-grade graded. This would probably come back a 9.4 if I decided to send it in. Maybe a little bit higher if I got it pressed. But definitely one of my favorites in the collection, being as it's one of the most recent, and like I mentioned, going down the list, the more recent you get, the more scarce these issues become. Getting into the top 3. Nostalgia. Simpsons Comics number 1 from 1993. This is a classic number 1 issue. It's a classic Fantastic Four number 1 homage. This was a larger print run book. This was 100,000 issues printed. So again, doing the math, you cut that down by about 10 or 12%. So you're looking at maybe 10 to 12,000 of these. Nostalgia is really hot right now. Just like the Turtles, people who were alive back then didn't have it. Older now, disposable income. They're going to start going for these 90s properties. You got Simpsons, you got Batman and Robin Adventures, things they grew up in. You know, the X-Men cartoon is also a good title to spec on. But the difference between newsstand and the direct edition, beside the barcode, the direct edition has the poster inside. The newsstand does not. I could see this book really spiking in the next couple of years, especially a newsstand as opposed to the direct, and that's why I put this at number 3 on my list. Number 2, hot book, definitely at the beginning of the year, slowing down a little bit. High grades are still creeping up, but as more people are becoming aware that the newsstand is a desired version of this Batman number 423, you've started to see more and more hit the list. When I first started getting this list together, it was like February, March. That's how long I've been thinking about this list. There were only like 20 to 30 of these out of maybe 120 listed, and now that those numbers are basically double, because this is such a hot book. This is such an iconic Todd McFarlane cover. It's from DC. You don't see a lot of his work as opposed to his run on Amazing Spider-Man or Incredible Hulk. And going forward, I like all the McFarlane DC covers. I like all the McFarlane DC work. So that's why I put this number 2 on the list. Unfortunately, not the highest grade. This was 88. I was 16. Didn't quite keep it in like a near mint condition, but it's still like a good, very fine. Good, very fine. It's kind of an oxymoron. All right, number 1 on the list. This book's made number 1 on another list. This is my all-time favorite cover. And I mean, why not? This is first Venom cover, Amazing Spider-Man 316. Again, I've mentioned this in videos many times before. This is an iconic Todd McFarlane cover. I worship at the altar of Todd McFarlane. No other artist growing up made me more excited to run down to the comic book shop, the late great Comics Explosion in Nutley, New Jersey, and get my fix of Todd McFarlane Amazing Spider-Man. But as you see, it's a newsstand, which means by the time I got down to the shop that day after high school, this was all out. So I had to go to a corner store and go find myself a copy of this. Sometimes that's a good thing. And because the McFarlane Spider-Man was so hot, let's see if I can get you up here. Almost every issue was out of at the shop by the time I got out of high school. So most of my McFarlane Spider-Man run are all newsstands. 308, 309. Oh, that is not a newsstand. 310, 311, 312, 13, stay up there, 14, 15, first Venom cameo, cover kind of appearance. God, he even draws Hydro Man good. 316 we saw, 317, and a Ben Grimm. Can you see that? Yeah, there you are. 18, 20, 324, and a super nice copy of his final issue of the run, 328, combining the two iconic runs together, Spider-Man and the Incredible Hulk. Definitely a candidate for a 9.8. So, let's get you back here. Got my list. Got a couple more videos to film today and over the weekend, so be on the lookout for them. Thank you all for stopping by. What do I always say? Let me know what you think. Let me know what you think. Picking up. Well, this isn't a pickup video. Thanks for stopping by. We'll see you next time.